This also includes some operating. What we have done is we have, previously generated all of the different funds and different departments' budgets as far as operating, and anything on these lists would be additional expense that we want to review, to discuss and go over. And what I'll do is I'll kind of briefly go over the list for the general fund, and then we can stop and have some discussions if needed. And I'll point out a few things to you that I feel like you might need to take a second look at, or just some things that may have changed or whatever. For the general fund, these are all requests that have been done by different department heads. There's been a request for City Hall roof at approximately $65,000, and we'll go through the whole general fund, and then we'll come back if you want and see if the board has any questions. City Hall office renovation, $20,000. Zoning ordinance update, $125,000. Impact fee study, $75,000. Adopt the 2018 ICC codes, $4,500. Reclassify vacant building inspector to plans examiner building inspector. This is just a title position with additional cost of $15,000. A full-time engineer / planning technician with benefits, $65,000. Finance department dual monitors, and we're going to strike that off because Glenn says he has plenty of extra monitors. One full-time line safety officer, that has already been approved in the 18-19 budget. I believe that was approved recently, Bruce?
Yes, it was.
Which, if we hadn't have already put it in the budget, it would have been an additional cost of 72, and basically it will be additional cost of 72 in next year's budget. 6 firefighters for $380,304. One full-time training officer for the fire department with benefits, $83,677. The next few items are also fire department. ESO reporting software, $28,810. And you'll notice that I have a column to the far left. These are potential expenses that we're looking at pulling forward into the current fiscal year. Well, and the way we'll do this is to do a budget amendment. And the reason this came about was we started looking at where we think we'll be at the end of the year, and we think that we'll have approximately about $1 million to $1.5 million surplus at the end of the year. So since this is this budget is very heavily burdened for the 1920 budget year as far as capital and other operating expenses, we started looking at, well, what can we possibly go ahead and purchase this year via budget amendment. So the fire department, and these are items that we have researched and found that we can get these in before the end of the year and get them paid for and get those done. ESO reporting software for the fire department, $28,810. iPads for the reporting software, $5,500. Station 2 repairs, $25,000. Station 3 repairs, $7,500, and I think David's group is doing part of these repairs. Special ops PPE for the fire department is $10,000. 6 portable radios, $30,000. 6 ballistic vests, $3,600. A fire marshal vehicle for $54,000. A stipend for the AMTs and the paramedics, which will cost an additional $35,000. Special ops trailer for $8,290. A service lift for the fleet department for $13,850. Diagnostic scanner for the fleet department, $8,000. Miscellaneous service truck tools, $4,500. Miscellaneous power tools, $3,200. The Identifix annual subscription for fleet is $1,250. The Altel yearly update for fleet is $1,000. Some security readiness analysis for the IT department of $1,495. An in-depth security assessment for $20,000. Outside trim paint for the library, $25,000. A metal building for Parks and Rec / maintenance, $9,000. I think mostly the maintenance tools and equipment is going to be housed in this. A maintenance building, $100,000. One full-time employee, $60,000. One pickup truck for $30,168 for Parks and Rec and maintenance. 2 zero-turn mowers for $21,300. That's for both of those. A Parks and Rec / maintenance supervisor with benefits, $58,384. 2 laborers, $102,416. An additional storage building for $5,000. A Parks and Rec vehicle for the
Event coordinator.
For $23,594. The for the police.
Where is this at now? Vehicles for Parks and Rec?
Yes, vehicle Parks and Rec, $23,594. AT&T Metro E line from Station 3 to the Tackin, $5,000. One full-time crime scene evidence tech, $66,292 for the police department. One full-time detective, $74,926. One full-time narcotics detective, $74,928. One full-time canine officer, $74,928. 2 full-time CSU officers, $149,856. 3 patrol officers, $224,784. 3 vehicles for CID, $131,530. 1 narcotics vehicle, $57,530. 1 canine vehicle, $71,995. 2 CSVs, $143,990. 10 patrol vehicles for $719,950. 3 patrol vehicles for the new officers, $172,590. SWAT body armor for the police department, $36,122. E-citation software, $126,000. Active killer kits, $44,632. The Tyler Thor submissions for the police department, $33,000. K9 equipment and training, $32,000. The Channel 3 upgrade, $200,000. And you'll notice that I haven't highlighted or in bold. We have already included it in the general fund budget that you've already looked at. And the reason we did that is because we had in the 18-19 budget, we had put $100,000 in there. And then after looking at that, this is all one project, and the total cost of the project is around $200,000, and we can't split it up. This is something that needs to be done for the Channel 3 upgrade, and we felt strongly that this needed to go ahead and be rebudgeted in the current budget. So that is already included in our general fund numbers. But I wanted to point it out here so that you know that this is a capital expense that we are going to incur in 1920. 1 full-time employee for streets at $60,000. 1 floater for streets for $60,000. And a 12-passenger van for streets for $26,154. And of course, that I'm assuming is pending the inmate outcome, whether or not we're going to continue with the inmates or not, because this would be the inmate transport van. And then 2 zero-turn mowers for the streets department. So that gives us a total for the general fund of $4,210. $4,210.
Wish.
4,000?
I mean, 4 million, sorry.
4,210,000.
$845. And out of that 4,210,845, approximately 676,000 is items that we're looking at pulling forward and going ahead and buying in the 18-19 budget year instead of the 19-20. So all of the items that have the little 18-19 description on the far left-hand side, those come up to about $675,000.
And that would also include what's already in the budget, correct?
No, that would not include the 200. For the 200, so that actually about 800 and something is already in. Well, 675 is what we're wanting to pull forward with budget amendments. And then that $200,000 you can subtract from that $4,210,000 because it's already in the general fund budget. Did I answer that correctly, Bruce? You still?
I think so.
So if anybody has any questions for the general fund, we have department heads here that could help clarify anything or any of the items. Most of these items were discussed in the retreat, so I think you've kind of been exposed to them.
So just a point of clarification, I can subtract, we're looking at 4,010,080, 850, 845, and then I subtract another 400,000, or 600,000.
You can subtract, actually, 800, you can subtract about 876,000 from that.
Okay,
That's 675 for the items that we want to pull forward in this current year, and then you can subtract the 200,000 for the Channel 3 that's already in the general fund.
And what is our available balance to work with?
Right around 800,000. That is the, you know, what we consider funds available for operating expenses is right around 800. You know, we have reserves. We can use capital money for reserves. It's not highly recommended to use capital. It's not highly recommended to use fund reserves for operating expenses. That's totally up to this board. It's kind of like
What's
in.
our number, Jason?
It's kind of like I kind of.
With that, as far as with the 876,000 out, it's 3,334,845 in requests and 800,000 available. Garland, did you have something?
Yes, I just wanted to say something. You got here, and I know not this past one, but the year before, I put in for an employee that year plus an employee the next year. This budget year, I put in for a floater, so I'd be glad to take two, but really I was wanting to take one full-time employee and make it a floater between the street department and the fleet department, and maybe hire someone that can do minor, oil changes, and then if they're not busy, then he goes to the streets.
So we can take one of those out?
Take one of those out.
Thank you, Garland.
I mean, if you're willing to give me the two, I can take them. But I mean, I forgot that I had the one the year prior in there to have one the next year, but I will go with just the floater.
So the actual funds available are 800,000,
Correct.
and the funds to make, I guess this would be the wish list, is $3.5 million.
Correct.
So the deficit is, $250,000. So this is where we start asking questions, right?
Absolutely.
Probably more than $250,000.
Yeah, it's like three.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm just,
significantly higher.
I'm just, 334 minus 800,000.
I got 2,500,000, but
And just, just so we,
Yeah, 2,500,000. I'm sorry, I added a zero.
just so we kind of know, it's up to, this board to make your recommendations. You can send them to me or Bruce or both of us or whatever. And then it's, of course, it's, ultimately up to the mayor to decide what goes in the budget that will be proposed at the workshop next week. So, we can discuss these all night long, or you can kind of look at the list and prioritize what you think is most important and submit that list to me or me and Bruce, however you feel most comfortable. And we'll share that with the mayor, and we'll try to get you a copy back to you. It'll most likely be just a couple days before the meeting, because we don't have much time to, for the mayor to take everybody's information. You'll need to submit that pretty quickly, within the next couple days, at least by Thursday, so the mayor will have time to look at everybody's recommendations and compile a list that will be suitable for our budget ordinance.
But there's not, do you recommend we discuss this tonight as much as we can?
If you have questions, right now's the time to discuss it.
All right, where do you guys want to start? Who would want to pick up the city hall renovations? $20,000.
I can discuss that to a certain degree. David, of course, could
could just as well, but it was covered during the planning retreat. The idea behind this is that while City Hall doesn't have a substantial amount of room to really reorganize, there is a possibility of perhaps splitting some of the existing room that was back in the tax office into, I think there's a hope to get maybe 2 more offices out of it. The reason the cost is so high is because we'll likely have to relocate an entire wall, and I have a strong suspicion it's a load-bearing wall, so our crew won't be doing that. But if everything outside of the relocation, resupporting of a load-bearing wall, they'll do the drywall, that type of thing. So that's why it's what it is.
And we're not 100% sure it's a load-bearing wall. We have to get in a structural engineer to look at that. And I know David and I and Bruce were talking about that earlier today.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, the drywall goes all the way to the top of the red iron. It very well could just been a firewall, because this has been a PD at one time, you know, that back area. Could be a load-bearing wall. It's hard to say without getting somebody in that's more knowledgeable than us. If they come in and say it's not a load-bearing wall, then we could pretty much do almost 100% of the stuff in-house, which would cut our cost. I think the biggest part of that is, if it is a load-bearing wall, is your engineering costs and how you're going to block that wall back up, if you're going to put a column in there or what. Just looking at the roof, there's not a whole lot up there on that side of the building, but like I said, in no way am I a structural engineer, so I'm a little leery looking through the ceiling and seeing the drywall go all the way to the top.
And so it's we're looking at adding 2 office space?
I think we could probably get 2 is kind of what it feels like. It's
Right now, it's not being used at all, so it's 2 to 3, depending on that front area.
Depending on what kind of work we have to do, yeah. You might get 3 out of it if we can take that wall completely out and put a column in.
What will go there?
I don't know what's intended to go there. The mayor might have a better answer.
There's been some discussion as far as bringing tax up here towards the front, because, as you know, I've talked about before, trying to ultimately like to see court, water billing, taxes all up here at the front. That way you centralize all your payments. Whether it, that way if there's a situation with police only have 1 place to go at that point versus 3. There's, of course, you have to relocate grants, the assistant city recorder, for both of those 2 moves. As far as that would open that up. If you did move courts, you'd move me as well. But right now, I know courts is just a discussion we just recently started.
It's just all ideas right now.
So we're looking at $20,000 just in the renovation, and what, another 5 or 10 for office attire? I don't see that in here.
For the most part, there's already some existing office supplies, or furnishings is actually the correct term. So I would suspect at most we'd be furnishing, 1 additional office if you count all the various furnishings that we've got in storage. There's spare chairs kind of throughout the city or have been passed down, so it would, of course, depending on the position, things could change in that, but for the most part, I think furnishings would be available, or the other option is, I have enough faith in David's guys to think that they could do some built-ins if it's, just someplace for somebody to have a monitor, that type of thing.
Yeah, and we're bargain shoppers anyway, so we're gonna go wherever we get the best deal. So when we spend the city's money, it's like we're spending our own. So we're not going with the first quote we get, so we're gonna go wherever we're gonna get the best deal at. And something like that, flooring, you can go back with carpet. Carpet's relatively inexpensive. So the main expense is gonna be whatever the wall is. That's gonna be the main expense. And in this, you'd rather shoot high than low. So it may come in at 20,000, may come in at 15. I think we estimated on this kitchen 15 some odd, and it probably came in at 11 or 12. So like I said, we're going to look around and try to get the best deal we can.
And that was something Adam said during the retreat, was that you went high with these quotes.
Yes,
So
sir.
that essentially you don't come back asking for more, hopefully. You're coming back saying, hey, we have surplus.
Right. So in the nutshell, the new offices is to put everybody that's receiving money in the same area, right, for safety reasons?
That's the overall goal. It makes it convenient for our residents versus having to go to all over City Hall. Makes it convenient. You have all of that in one area. Also, it's utilizing space that we have. That's the big thing, is we always hear that it's cramped conditions. Well, we're making sure we're utilizing what we have.
Okay. So we have no plans into making any new hires or adding new positions?
Not right now, no. That would be right here in this.
Okay. All right. And the city roof is, I guess that's self-explanatory. Is that a new roof?
Yeah, it'd have to be bid out, and we're kind of basically going off of what we got, the quote for the PD. And that's just the ballpark.
Right.
It'd have to go out, it depends on who comes in lowest. We were happy with Baker Roofing. They did a good job. This building here is probably gonna, that came in like, I think 58,000 maybe. This is gonna be considerably more just due to the odd shape of the building and the tear off. Plus they have more metal on this than across the street, so that's just the ballpark, but,
What I'm trying to establish is just the wants and the needs, so
oh yeah, well, that's
definitely is a need, right?
That's definitely a need.
All right. All right.
Well, I mean, and that's part of what Phyllis had talked about with, as far as everyone reviewing this to determine priorities with wants and needs. So,
So the zoning ordinance update,
that
what
was
exactly is that?
That was discussed at Planning Commission. It was discussed at Planning Retreat as well, where the last subdivision regs and zoning ordinance updates were in 2003. So significantly, they need to be updated and modernized.
So will we be rezoning properties in the city?
This isn't rezoning. All this is just updating our zoning ordinance and to modernize it and our subdivision regs. It doesn't touch anybody's property. This is just our internal ordinance,
Okay.
what we go off of. And then the impact fee study kind of goes along with that, where again, it's out of date. It's that we don't have anything for fire in the impact. So we want to go through, do a new study, make sure that we're in that range of around the surrounding area, because that directly impacts money going to fire, police, parks and rec, streets. We want to make sure that that's correct, that's not too low. Adam, do you remember when that was last updated?
It was adopted in the 2000s. The actual study was completed, I believe, in 97 or 98. What's significant is that we can't we can't change the rates until a new study's been performed, and that's kind of enshrined in state law. So we couldn't just adopt a fire impact fee until we have a new study done.
That makes sense. So the adoption of the 2018, is that the international codes?
Mm-hmm.
So are we adopting that as written, or are we making changes to that?
That's up to this board whenever it actually comes before us. So I believe that's for what, the books?
Yes, that is for, I want to say 6 sets of books, because we try to maintain one at the library, one for the city administrator, then Randolph, of course, has copies, then the field inspectors tend to have various copies. Not everybody gets the complete set, but 3 complete sets is almost $3,000, so everybody else will get parts and pieces.
So this is the actual books.
And the reason I have to have a copy is when we adopt something by reference, we have to keep a file in the recorder's office
I agree.
for permanent record.
All right. So I guess my next questions would be for the fire chief. Yeah. The wish list, if we approve this as his budget, are we agreeing, are we giving him the manpower and the support, what he's asking for? Or is this something that we're negotiating? How does that work, Phyllis?
Which section are you talking about?
I'm sorry.
Just under the fire, starting from the life safety officer down, like the 6
Well-
firemen, $380,000.
We can't, well, in my opinion, we can't just approve the whole thing. I think the fire department is 697,000. When you're looking at the items that's not going to be pulled forward to this year. So, I mean, that, if we have 800,000, that eats up all but $103,000. So it's, like Phyllis said, as far as determining what the priorities are, you basically figure out which ones are your priorities with that amount and submit that list and that reasoning to Phyllis and Bruce. And then they're get with me on all the suggestions for this and basically go from there.
So Chief, are you ready to go through your list and put those in priority?
We can. When we listed some of these as capital and some of these returns into operations budget for next year. As you know, that the life safety officer that's in place, 6 firefighters, that'll be an operational expense from here on out. Of course, the training officer as well. Being that it's coming up this year, and that is our request, as you know, those positions are vital to the department and the safety of the other ones that are out there. As far as the other items on there, they're true capital expenditures. The ones that will reflect on next year's budget would be the 6 firefighters and the training officer. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does.
Two separate bank accounts, I guess you would say.
Basically, one's one-time purchases.
Correct.
The other one is something that carries
Now,
over each year.
And that's something that I discussed with Phyllis. The ESO, that will be an ongoing cost annually. So we'll pay for training up front. I think that's about $11,000. We won't see that again, that expenditure. That ESO program runs about $1,700 a month, which is cheaper than what we have in New World today as far as on the fire side of it. But in return, I believe that it's going to provide a more efficient service that we provide just due to data, inventory, building inspections, just an array of things that it can do. And also, we're going to share some of that data with the police department as far as pre-planning, utilize it tactically if needed.
And that ESO, along with the iPads, are two of the items that we're going to see at next week's meeting
Right.
as a budget amendment.
Okay.
So that would be a budget amendment to this current budget?
To our current budget year, yes.
Would that be with the $11,000 in training or no?
Yes, that's that total price, the
28.
28.
And I think that's going to, like I said, it's going to be vital to Laverne. Also, it's vital to the patients when we look at documentation and returning those. So we will share our profile with Rutherford County EMS. So instead of having to do paper, when that patient goes back and looks at their insurance or calls for their medical reporting, it's all going to be in one spot instead of 5 different places.
Gotcha.
We can also do inventory on medical supplies. I think I can reduce our medical supplies inventory cost. I'm hoping. I think we can, along with some agreements that I've made in the last few days with Rutherford County EMS. They can absorb some of our medical supplies, which in turns, they charge the patient. So there has been some, not only with this, but some agreements along with Rutherford County.
So as the fire department, are we allowed to go direct to the insurance companies?
No, sir, we do not charge the insurance companies. That is all billed through Rutherford County EMS.
Gotcha.
That cloud, the data is stored, it is locked, double locked. The U.S. government uses it. So as far as being hacked and all those other kind of things, it's a solid platform. And those are the kind of things we got to look at as far as the HIPAA.
Great.
And they are all compliant.
Station 2 and Station 3 repairs, $32,000. Is that something, David, that will fall under your rim?
Yes.
We can do, I think we're planning on doing most of that except for the, spray, and they were gonna have their roof sprayed, the spray foam at, Station 2. I think everything else, we're pretty much planning on doing in-house, I believe. The
Garage
kitchen,
doors.
and then at, the hallway at Station 3, I believe.
About the bay doors.
Oh, the bay doors, yeah, we couldn't do, the bay doors is gonna probably be, Aiken's doors. I think Chris may have already gotten a quote on that. If we've gotten a quote on that, I don't recall what it was.
12,000.
Yep, there you go.
And that was for the doors.
Yes, sir.
It's at Station 3, right?
It's at Station 2.
Oh, Station 2.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the special ops PPE.
Correct. It is our intent to put on several more of those team members to elevate our team number. And those suits, I cannot do that, this capital expenditure, if we do it early, because I don't know the players, because we haven't done the agility test or any of those kind of things. And that's going to come at the end of May. There's no way I could get those suits in here and not knowing who the players are, because they're custom fit.
Gotcha. And what suits are those?
Those are dry suits, Swiftwater dry suits, PFDs, helmets, gloves, and accessories.
So this would be one more thing that we're adding to our arsenal to minimize the use of any outside group.
Correct. There's been some facelifts provided in the county. I'm not saying that they won't come. They will. But in the last couple of years, I've seen that we need to hold our own as far as response, quick response, being able to provide the resources here in the city of Laverne and not depend on the county as much. Because as you know, widespread flooding, it doesn't happen just in Laverne.
Right.
And so, those resources are going to be tied up. So we need to prepare and plan ahead for those activities that occur in Laverne. The special ops trailer, we have a heavy rescue that's probably going to come in place here pretty quick. It's almost done. We've saved a lot of money by doing it ourselves and versus Southeast Apparatus. Our guys have jumped on that. They've kind of gotten ownership of that truck. They're mounting supplies and things like that. With this special ops trailer, we're able to, in the event of a widespread event, such as a tornado, or B, a flood, we can divide those teams into two different divisions and operate, if that makes sense. That allows us to provide that type of service. So we're doubling we would increase our staff and then be able to double our distribution of those services a little bit better.
And we have the vehicles to pull it and they're
Yes, sir, we do.
and the ballistic vests. I thought that was a grant.
It was, and I budgeted for 30 more vests. Those go to each individual. In the event that we hire 6 new individuals, they will need vests along with the standard firefighting PPE. And so that's the reason that you see 6 in there.
These
Those
ballistic
are plates, carriers, and packs.
are these similar to the police departments that have a shelf life?
The plates can be used much longer than a standard, soft ballistic vest. 5 years
Right.
is basically what we have on vest, and that's why we got SWAT built in, because the 5 years are ending. The plates will last longer, unless they're actually hit, and then you have to take them out. Now,
Or dropped.
or dropped, or run over, or
They'll tear it up.
you know,
Okay.
something unusual.
You guys can jump in anytime you want.
We were at the retreat.
Oh, I was at the retreat too. So the outside trim paint for the library, $25,000. That be you, Miss Donna? That's a lot of money for some trim.
There's a lot of trim. And of course, as you see, the library has a lot of architecture that's really up high. There'll be a lot of scaffolding going on. I will not be painting myself, but there will be a lot of scaffolding.
Right.
And across the roof line, it needs it bad.
Right.
You can really walk around and see that there's a lot of areas where I think it's like that copper has come through and it's got these marks that's going down. And there's a couple of pieces of wood that may need to be replaced.
And we put 25,000 in there because we knew anything over 25 was gonna have to go out for bid. So we're hoping we could get it under that, but we don't know, just looking at, and you gotta realize these buildings haven't really had any maintenance done on the outside since they were built.
Right.
So what wood she does have there, hopefully we can save it. If we can't save it, then it's gonna have to be replaced and painted. Hopefully we can just get by with a coat of paint on it. But that's not something that we could do ourselves just to the, you know.
Just for the
we'd have to
liability,
Turn that over
yeah.
to somebody else.
Okay. All right. In the maintenance building,
That one probably can come off with this as far as with the merging of Parks and Rec and Maintenance. That would keep them all in the same building.
The 100,000?
Yes.
Okay.
so you want to discuss the merging? What exactly is that?
Well, like we discussed at planning retreat, where we used to have both a maintenance and Parks and Rec department all as one department. Several years ago, I believe 2 years ago, Bruce, those two departments were split apart into maintenance and Parks and Rec. And so I proposed to remerge them.
I'm just curious, why'd they do that?
Various reasons as far as just priorities and making sure things got done. But I don't think we're going to have that problem going forward. And so I've got at least here in the budget where they're merged.
So let's discuss that because Parks and Recs are asking for more bodies, and as well as maintenance is asking more bodies, and it's, to me, it's two different professions. So how does that benefit us? I mean, I'm all for saving $100,000, so I'm ready to listen.
Well, how are they two different specialties?
Well, I mean, our guys, I think if you put David on a baseball field, you'd probably, I don't think you'd be successful as the guys in Parks and Rec, and I think if the guys in Parks and Rec were out here.
Actually, until we split 2 years ago, we all did the same thing.
Okay.
The main reason for one of the split was it got to the point where a lot of the maintenance issues were getting neglected because we were focusing more on the parks.
Okay.
So since we split, that gave the parks guys time to focus on the park, where we took care of any mowing that we did as a group. We took over all that. So they basically don't answer any maintenance calls or do any grass cutting outside the park. So they get to focus mainly in the park. So that helped us out, because if there was an issue down here and we were all pressed up there to do something, then something was getting neglected somewhere. So when we split, it actually, it worked out pretty well, and I think what the mayor's proposing can work, because we've all done a little bit of all of it anyway.
So how would that be structured when we have supervisors and department heads in both?
So what I've discussed, and again, this has got to be fleshed out fully, but something similar to Michael Dietz's department, where he has basically he has two teams, and each team specializes, and if they have to pull somebody over for, hey, we've had 2 people call out due to the flu, they're able to, but they're each able to maintain their focus.
But Michael is ultimately the boss.
Yes,
So with that being said,
Yeah, who's the boss?
we would have to figure that out, and that's something that we'd sit down and figure out. We
What
haven't
meeting?
even crossed that bridge because we have to get through the budget process first.
But in the budget process, they're asking for things as being two different entities, two separate departments.
And I may be able to clear that up, and I don't want to overstep my bounds, but we were asking for one maintenance laborer, and I see that Parks is asking for 2 laborers. And I think what the mayor's proposing could work with the people you have if there's a supervisor on the park side, and then the maintenance side maintains a supervisor. So you could realistically get by with the people you have now if you restructured and take out those 3 laborers, the 1 maintenance laborer and the 2 parks laborers.
So do we do that at this meeting where we strike it and get it off of here?
Well,
Trust me, I'm not trying to take away from anybody, and I don't want to speak on AC's
well,
behalf.
that's up to this board as far as the suggestions that that each person presents to Bruce and Phyllis. Because what's going to happen is all those suggestions are going to be submitted to them, and then we're going to sit down and review those to put together the final budget.
Yeah, I reached out to MTask on the emails and sending requests and everything, and they made it clear that's what these meetings are for. That is what these meetings, the budget hearings, the special called meetings, is to hash out all that stuff, not through email.
There are questions that I'm gonna come up with
Yeah,
tonight.
exactly, and I will too.
I still will email and ask Bruce and Phyllis. So that, yeah, we can talk about it, but we're basically rehashing what we went over with in the budget hearing. And also, as far as trying to get a concrete answer on what was just discussed, that's left up to the mayor. I mean, they're the ones that gotta decide on who they're gonna place in those positions. We don't.
No, I understand that, but it's up to this board to pass the budget.
Yeah, and they have to get the budget right, because as you see, with him bringing the information in, we just knocked out another $100,000.
Right, so we strike the building maintenance, is that what was stated? The 100,000? But we don't strike the personnel that both departments are asking for. I'm just asking that.
Still shows as a request. Whether or not it shows up on the budget, we'll decide, or wind up deciding. And then the board will vote whether to approve the budget as a whole or not.
And then when we go to approving the budget, we'll go back down the line items and see what's added or what's taken away, right?
Well, you'll be provided a copy of it before the workshop to go through it. There can be discussion, but we don't go through at the workshop or the board meeting line item by line item. That turns the workshop and the board meeting into a possibly 3 or 4 hour meeting just on that one agenda item.
Yeah, be prepared.
That's what these budget meetings and the planning retreat is for, is to go through it line item by line item. So that's what that's designed for.
I will provide a list, say if, everyone, if the mayor recommends that we spend $1 million instead of the 800,000 that we have available. If he says, okay, this is what I want, and all this is gonna cost us $1 million, I will provide that list
Right.
separately, so
That's
you'll
what I
know
was-
what I built into the budget.
That's what I was
It'll-
asking. And then we
it'll-
go down those items and,
Yeah.
if we have 800,000 and we're wanting to spend, or maybe,
I'll let you know what that 800 was.
and then we'll discuss that. Yeah, that's fine. All right.
And I think some of the, the items that have already been taken out, like the building, I think when a department head in this meeting says you can take that out, I think they're feeling comfortable that this is something that we can go ahead and do now. David hasn't directly said take it out, and AC's not here to say directly take his out, so we need to give them that opportunity to think about it, and,
Right, yeah, I didn't say take it out.
yeah.
That was said to take it out. I'm just trying to go down and learn each step of, because there is only 800,000 and there's, $2.5 million worth of requests, so.
Is there ever a time that all the department heads pretty much already know what's being asked of everybody? Is there ever a time that they come back with a different sheet and prioritize what would be like, you know, like he asked Chief if had to pick one or two things out of that list.
Yes, we have done that.
Okay.
You know, they have prioritized their own list and sent it to the board, but it's ultimately up to the board to, you know, decide what items they want, and then it's up to the mayor to put together the final list.
And my experience over the last 2 years has been, lots of dialogue with the directors, whether it's either Chief, Michael, David, AC, Garland, especially Garland. Garland really pitches for his stuff. So it's something where it's not just, hey, the directors have submitted their requests, and that's the end of it. There's ongoing dialogue with all the board members to say, hey, this is what I'm fighting for, this is what I need, and go from there.
So we're allowed to talk to the directors?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Oh, yeah, you're yeah.
all right, I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure I'm clear on this. So it is okay for an alderman or vice mayor to discuss things with
We're
with the
talking about,
department heads and budget items.
we're talking about the budget. Yeah,
Budget items.
I mean, like I said, Garland was already hitting me
Just wanna make
yesterday
sure.
and today
I just want to make
and
sure it's
last week.
okay.
Ain't afraid.
And I know Clark's been hitting me since before the elections.
And you wanting this in by
As soon as
Thursday?
possible, because we
Day
have,
after tomorrow?
Day after tomorrow.
we have, next week is our workshop.
Yeah, Thursday would be great, Monday morning early at the latest. I don't know what the mayor's schedule is, but, you know, we need to finalize it no later than Wednesday morning so that we have time to, do we have to have the actual ordinance at the workshop? Or?
Not necessarily the written ordinance, but it needs to be close, so they have an idea.
I can provide them with the actual budget, we just don't have to have the
The
ordinance.
ordinance
written.
itself doesn't have to specifically be ready until the Tuesday meeting, but we need to have a good idea what's going to be
Yeah.
voted on, of course.
Yeah.
So if that budget comes before us and maybe for some, whatever reason, it fails, we vote on it, it fails, do we go through this process again, they redo their stuff, or?
We have before.
Yep,
We've held more workshops and gone over other, the contested items, so to speak. We have done that before.
And
Yeah,
if we-
I've sat in here during the Webb administration. We had two budgets. It took a long time to get it passed, but they went through it, they discussed it, and it did take hours. But, I mean, when you're dealing with $23 million of, operations.
Just in general fund.
Yeah, the right decision, I guess, is, because you only get one chance, and if we mess it up.
The key is to get it approved before the end of June.
Otherwise, we have to do budget amendments for month-to-month transactions.
Oh, yeah, no, I understand that.
Really?
It automatically reverts back to the
Yeah.
previously approved
Right.
budget.
Right.
previous year's budget.
Until you get a new budget approved.
So, Chief Walker, the 10 patrol cars, that would be a need or a want?
The 10 cars are a need because of the number of 13 that we purchased. And we've got, almost all of them are over 100.
So they aged out at 5 years is what it is?
Well, no, when you start getting the mileage on them and the type driving
Yeah,
that we do,
right.
fiddling around city streets, then all of a sudden, here you go.
Right.
Quick, fast, in a hurry. There's a lot of wear and tear on various parts, and we're beginning to see an increase, and Garland can address that better than I can, because the majority of the repair budget comes from Garland's line item in his fleet side. And that's the reason we're looking at trying to replace those that are gonna be upwards of, 100 and, well, at the end of March, 133, 257.
Wow.
And there's seven, I believe it is, or over 120. So by the time we get to the end of the fiscal year, and then wait another year, we're looking 150, 60,000.
Them cars will go back for backup units.
Well, our backup
Some of
units are gone. That's part of the problem too. We don't have backup.
So your 133,000-mile cars would be your backup cars?
Will become a pool car.
Okay.
So that if you have one that's wrecked, or if you have one that has an engine go down, transmission, things of that nature.
Okay.
Then you've got something to drive that you can depend on going from point A to point B that way.
So with that 700,019, is that turnkey? Is that radios, equipped, decals?
That's everything.
Okay.
That's full blown, because it's actually a little more than, well, it's about double. The cost of the vehicle about doubles with all the equipment, lights, sirens, radios,
Okay.
et cetera, et cetera.
Gotcha.
Cages, et cetera.
Is the, all the wiring and lights and computers and everything, are they transferable, or do you just keep updating?
Some of the things we have to update
Okay.
because they cycled out in the last 7 years now, and it's going to be model year wise because of the technology. And once you get to light bars, et cetera, they begin costing you a lot of problems if you're not careful when you take them out and put them in, take them out and put them in. Sometimes it's better in the long run to go ahead. The other problem we have is with some of the cage equipment for the box that you put the bad guys in. Those have changed considerably since we bought the 13s. There are some pretty good safety features, updated, upgraded parts and pieces that have been done. So some of them can be totally replaced, some of them could be reused, but some couldn't. And it depends on what you wind up with.
Kinda like you getting rid of your flip phone. It's kinda like you getting rid of your flip phone,
Yes,
moving up.
yes.
So Chief Walker, the 3 patrol vehicles for new officers, that's on top of the 10?
The 3 vehicles for new officers, you have to build in all of the ancillary costs
Of the new officers?
of the new. If you get 3 new officers, you're gonna have to have training, equipment, vehicles, et cetera, et cetera.
Wow. And how many officers are you short right now?
We're 2 vacant right now. We will be filling a vacant sergeant position hopefully in the next 6 weeks, 7 weeks. And that will leave 3, but we're doing testing Saturday. So hopefully we can fill those 2 remaining and then maybe have somebody hanging out there that we can get, but we've got all but the 2 filled.
Okay.
Right now, we're at 37 officers assigned to patrol.
Gotcha.
Well, will be assigned once they all get through the academy, because we've got 3 that are having to go in July.
So let's move down to the SWAT body armor.
All right, SWAT is end of 5-year cycle for the soft body armor that actually goes in the carriers that you see them wearing on the outside. But we need to replace their plates as well. We're upgrading the plates. They will be a lighter weight and won't be hardly as hard. We're going to upgrade those plates.
Okay.
That's in a separate line down there. It's SWAT body armor, and then, well, where's that figured in?
It's on,
Conrad, is that built in?
So, this kind of goes hand in hand with the active killer kits. If we get the active killer kits that come with the plate can put it in our soft body armor, our new SWAT vest. So we have one plate for two applications, one active killer kit, and if we have a SWAT call out, we can take that plate out and put it in our soft body armor. Instead of
Okay.
having plates for each.
Right,
The
right.
active killer kits are plates for every patrol officer.
So you're $80,000, and that would be, I
That's
guess, a
why-
life nest, you know, it's to save your life, you
Yeah.
gotta have it.
It's not just SWAT, it's anybody that's out there up front,
Okay,
because the patrol officer is gonna be the first one in school. They may be a SWAT officer too,
right.
but add the plates to everyone else, you might have patrol officers there before any SWAT officer gets there.
And this kind of goes hand to hand with Chief Clark's request for the ballistic vest.
Yeah, our body armor's better than theirs.
Okay. Our fire department is, you guys can stand behind a fireman.
Part of the
We're gonna let him
county
put it
book.
on and test it.
Right.
No, seriously, and that's what,
Yes.
we're
Okay.
all one big team. They lead the pack. We pick up the pieces,
Okay,
but we make sure now, that's the reason why we got those. We got it off of Homeland Security. We were fortunate, we were lucky. But this is a dire need, necessity for today's society. We have to protect our employees. If there's anything else out there, we need to make sure that those guys are well protected.
well,
We
I
have
agree.
an active shooter situation, whether it's an industrial site, a house of worship, God forbid, it, or a school, either one. But if we have an active shooter there, fire no longer sits back. Fire goes in with that assault team. And get in, triage, secure, and get them back, and then move forward.
Okay.
I mean, they're right there with us.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've seen it.
We don't.
It's just, I would never would imagine it's that expensive, but it is.
Currently, every fire, police,
SWAT.
and EMS personnel in the county is attending training over the next 8 months to do exactly what we're talking about.
Okay.
So if there is an active killer, yeah, the police are gonna go deal with it. But the fire and EMS people, we going in the hot zone and dealing with patients for critical care and getting them out
At the time of the event.
while it's going
Yeah,
on.
okay,
Yeah. You don't sit back and wait
right.
till the gunfire stops. You go, point blank.
With that being said, and that he brought this up, and I haven't spoken to Bruce, but there's a good chance that you're fixing to see a Murfreesboro fire truck in the city of Laverne during the daytime period. We're gonna swap out personnel going back and forth to this training. We're all collectively working together to cover each other as we go through these training events. So if you see that, that's what's going on.
It's ever fire and ever police
Okay,
working together. Multiples.
yeah.
Whose idea was that?
A lot of folks talking about it for a good while.
But it didn't involve us or nothing, y'all just,
It involves all of us.
Yeah.
It's involved all of us talking about that need to have that type of training, and it's coming.
I like it.
It's coming.
There's no question, I think for myself or this board, I'm pretty sure there's certain things we all agree on. It's when we spend, and it's my first time being responsible for the city's money, when we spend $80,000 on bulletproof vest or whatever, you know, the classification is, I don't think it's the dollar amount, it's the reasoning behind it that we need to explain to the citizens. And I don't think there's a citizen in Laverne that would say they don't, you could pull somebody over tonight as an officer, and the person you're pulling over wants you to be protected. So I really believe it's an easy sell to the city, to the community, if it's explained, and that's what we're doing.
I'll give you an example why we have upgraded through the years. And we're to a point now, nobody get excited, okay? I'm gonna take this out for a reason, because I'm gonna tell you that 45 round right there will be stopped by the body armor we wear today. When I came here, these people were wearing body armor that did well to stop a 38 plus P round. Now, could it still kill you? Yeah, it'll break bones and cause damage and hemorrhaging and everything else. Penetrate and tear you all to pieces. It'll flatten out. With the body armor we wear, the plates that we have, even if it's our own. Chris carries the same thing we do. He's SWAT medic. He's fixing to add more medics so that we have more people who are available on a regular basis. And they will train. Chris trains just like Conrad's supposed to do. He's right there in the middle with them. He can do anything and everything they can do. And has a special, kind of a limited, restricted commission thing. He's not deputies, police. Real police. But
Keep that bullet in your pocket.
it's sad when you.
Okay, we get it. Put it away, Chief. We're good.
He wants his budget approved. Okay?
Sergeant at Arms, come on, Conrad. This is where you jump up and do your thing.
The thing is, it's sad when what you're carrying is you.
Yeah.
Because you don't have the protection you need. And that's why we work constantly. We participate in the Bureau
He really did that.
Justice Administration, the BJA VEST grant. We get half of the cost back.
And just for the record, Chief, I've never done that in city, at the city meetings. Okay, you did that. You showed us your gun and everything. I just want to clear that up.
I did. That's my weapon.
We're getting you your vest, man. Don't worry about it.
No, I'm just trying to explain what we have, and people, a lot of people don't understand.
No, you're right.
That, I'm gonna be honest with you, since I've been here, the folks that have been here making these decisions have given us as good equipment and as much good equipment as we could afford to have.
I agree.
And I'm thankful.
Yeah.
It's just that we can't lag behind when we get.
And when you're sitting on that side of the podium, you have no idea that this stuff, at $80,000, I would never in my wildest dreams think, man, and giving you guys some protection for a small SWAT team. You don't have, you don't have 50 members, is 80 grand. So it's just explaining it so the average person in Laverne can understand it, because that's how we make this happen. I'm learning as we go. So hopefully we can make that happen. And I guess that's where we have to cut buildings and, the needs and the wants. That would be a need to me, life safety device. The K-9 training equipment, is that a one-time fee or is that continuous?
K-9 / the equipment, including a pad and kennel, et cetera, and the training for the K-9 and the K-9 officer. That's adding another K-9.
Gotcha.
That's about what it costs to get Mike and Jacques total.
The Channel 3 upgrades, Bruce, that's what we went over with Jerry, right?
And that's already in the budget.
In the 2018.
Well, 100,000 is already
100,000 is in the current year
18,
budget.
19.
100,000 is coming out of this budget, and that's already in there.
Right.
Did Jerry say that was gonna be like 300,000 to do that?
No, he said it was 200,000,
200,
and
yes.
that it would take the system offline for several weeks.
I'll take the 300. We need to get him a chair that doesn't squeak.
Now, that's how we keep up with it.
Just saying.
I have a question on that. Are they, is that new equipment gonna be able to fit in there? Or are they gonna have to renovate that? Or are they gonna keep that in that same location?
Jerry, can you comment on that? Thank you.
They give him a reason to get out of there.
Chief, has the fire marshal been back there?
Yeah, he's been back there.
Sorry, Jerry, you know most about this, so.
Oz is probably more,
Red shirt on.
the one that needs to go back there.
To answer your question, we will not have to renovate the room. It will go in that area. We will have to get rid of the existing desk, file cabinet, work table,
Extension cords.
extension
Yeah.
cords, cables, everything else. What they're going to do is they're just going to take it straight down to the ground and build it back up. And that includes the office equipment, the equipment sits on and tables and stuff. That's also going to be redone in that bid also. So we're not going to have to knock out any walls or, but if your maintenance wants to put a bathroom in there for me, I'd be more than happy to take that. But no, I'm just kidding. But no, everything should fit in there. That's why we took measurements the other day to send to the company, so that when we send out the bid, they'll see what dimensions the room is, so that they'll know, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is where we need it to fit. And I think, talking to Kyle, did we not talk about doing a pre-bid inspection? Where if you want to bid on it, you have to come and see, so that you can, once you win the bid, come back and say, oh, no, I didn't know we were going to do this. This is going to be another change order. And when I know how much you all love change orders, so we're trying to avoid that all the way around by taking every precaution we can. And we're also making sure that they are within the Tennessee area, because I've had problems with people in Louisville, St. Louis, and Georgia, I believe, of equipment before. So, in fact, I actually had to take the main component to St. Louis once, just so that they could fix it and update it, because they couldn't come down here and do it. I had to take it up there. So that's why we want everybody located around this area in Tennessee, so I can go hunt them down and make them fix it if I have to.
And Jerry, if we make this happen and it works, to your advantage and to the city's advantage to come up with that money, is that something, the existing media stuff, is that something we could donate to the high school?
They won't want it.
Is it that old,
It's
really?
that old.
Wow.
I know Park and Rec.
They begged us to take the old stuff we gave them years ago. They made us take that back.
Wow.
So even the
They
high
have their own
school's
stuff
got
now.
better.
They have their own stuff
And
now, yeah.
Well, no, the high school no longer has a media program.
Okay.
They totally scrapped their television production over there, and got rid of that program, because we actually had them doing the Spanish every 2 weeks for us. What they
Okay.
would do is we give the news in English, and then we'd have a high school student do it in Spanish, and we'd actually go to their classroom and let them film it, and then we'd play it back, but that just didn't last too long.
And this is not a want, this is a need, from the simple standpoint that we could be taken off the air, not
Right.
just by the system,
Right.
but
Right.
due to legalities, because we don't do closed captioning.
Right.
And that is, I know there's one municipality that's already been sued, and they've had to take their stuff offline
Right.
until they can make those upgrades. So we want to avoid that type of situation.
About a couple of weeks ago, the guy came in and showed me the design of it, and he was, the closed captioning that he was suggesting was that it be done by a person or by a service. And that was gonna run us, how was that gonna run us? About $10,000 a month because of our programming. So what we did was I took one of the things I wanted in there, and I kind of pushed it down the list so that we could go ahead and get a text-to-type closed captioning system. So that can go automatically just go in there, and we won't have to pay a service on a monthly basis and have a recurring cost. And this will just be a one-time device that we can just slide into the system, and we'll have that taken care of.
All right.
Thank
So
you.
that would be a need. You agree with that?
Well,
That absolutely is a
considering we're
need.
still running the equipment from the year 2000, yes.
We could be taken off either through legalities or through the system just
Right.
crashing as a whole. So that is an overall need
But
for
we're
our
also
city.
making sure that our feeds can also go live to YouTube and can also go live to Facebook at the same time continuously, so that we can upgrade it. Now Murfreesboro goes to Roku, but I think we're more wanting to go to Facebook, because that's more what we have down here than what Allen has. Of course, Allen has a much
Yeah.
bigger budget than I do, and he covers a much bigger area, so.
And my questions aren't to offend anyone. It's just to educate myself on.
I understand it. That's no
I mean,
problem. I mean-
these numbers are just crazy.
Oh, I know. But,
unbelievable.
But to tell you the truth, that number's come down. That number's cut in half if I had done it in the past, because Smyrna went to HD and they paid $400,000 up front for all their equipment. So for me, upgrading to HD is $200,000, which is half of that cost. So, yeah, we did wait, but yet there's also a savings within that, because we could have had a
Because all that
higher.
electronic stuff has gone
Right.
down.
It has. And it's gotten smaller, and it's gotten more economical than it has when it first came out, because everything's expensive when it first comes out. But give it a while and technology catch up with it, then the cost will be driven down.
But the new stuff is gonna be able to be updated as time goes by.
Right. That's why when we had this, the microphone system and the mixer system put in, I made sure that it could be integrated into the new station. So we don't have to pay for a whole new audio system to go with into that. So that's what we were trying to do when we implemented this.
Would it be premature to ask if in fact this goes through, what kind of time span, or then would you get the, people to come in and, or have you already got an estimate from somebody?
What we do is we have 200,000, and I've got one guy who is working within that frame. And from what we have seen, he is well within that budget. And he is actually the guy who gave me the number when he put in this audio system. I said, how much would it cost me not to go high end, not to go low end, but go mid to upgrade my station? And he says, I can help you do it for $200,000.
So you're ready to act as soon as we pass this?
And as soon as I get the bid out, get the RFP done, and then I get the bid out, yes, I will be ready to go.
And then the system will be offline for 3 weeks? 2 weeks.
2 weeks. And we're planning on doing that, if everything goes as planned, cross our fingers, that we will do it after the mayor-alderman meeting in July.
Oh, I can already.
And then what I'll do is if there's any meetings in here, I will use a handheld camera to film them in here and take over at that point so that no meetings are missed. And then we'll go from there. We should be up by hopefully August.
And Bruce, with, I guess, kind of having a consultant work with us throughout this process, which is probably the norm, are we within the guidelines of the bidding procedures if he was to be the consultant that wins the bid?
Well, when we put it out for bid, you know, he can bid on it.
Okay.
But anybody else that bids on it, you know, they have to do the same equipment or equivalent.
Okay. Yeah,
You know,
that's
he's designing the system.
okay.
But when we put it out for bid, anybody else that wants to bid on it either has to put that exact equipment in or something that works
I
equivalent.
mean, of course, we want the guy that's gone through the process and knows
If
everything.
if he's the low bidder,
As
yeah.
long as we're doing it the legal way and
Exactly.
Right,
everyone
and
gets to bid
that's
on it.
another thing I was talking to Kyle, and when the guy came in to present it, I said, you know, we'll have to put this out for bid. He understood that. But we wanted to make sure it was fair and square and above board, because this is one of the last things you want to have somebody come in and quibble about. But we do feel comfortable about just restricting it to the state of Tennessee, just because we don't want to have to go to California or Illinois to get something done. So that's why we want them here.
And again, the 200,000, you know your technology, what it costs. I would never think we need $200,000 for Channel 3.
Right.
There's going to be a lot of citizens in Laverne wanting to understand,
I
wow,
understand
we
that.
needed $200,000 for,
But you have to understand, I'm a one-man shop.
yeah, no.
I mean, I
no
run the
doubt.
cameras, I run the audio, I do the editing, I do the whole process. So, you know, it's.
I remember when you did it from your cell phone with Jimmy
Right.
Evans. Okay.
We've done it from just about everything to get this meeting covered at all times, you know, but I'm a one-man shop. And basically what happened is that the high school is only in session for a certain amount of time, and then you're left with months without a high school. So we didn't have any help.
That's right.
So that's why we went to the system we have now.
And you still got our park and recs on the list to get those wireless microphone things?
Anytime they want to come over, I'll be more than happy to donate.
All right.
Great.
In fact, we'll even keep them, then in case they need them in the future, we'll hang on to them.
Awesome.
Thanks for answering all those questions.
So not a problem.
Miss Donna, coming back to you. I see another big $50,000 mark.
And that is actually put on,
That's where we discussed the roof before.
Well,
right,
that,
no, this is actually
that's-
for the year 2021.
Okay, 2021,
that-
gotcha.
that's not this budget.
So that won't be this budget.
That's correct.
Okay,
That's just future planning.
okay, good.
Any more questions about the general fund portion?
I looked at a little bit of this last year, but, of course, nowhere near involved as I am now, and I'm just wondering, how does this budget asking this year compare to years past as far as money?
Generally, I mean, it's pretty close to the same. Generally, the department of kids come in with anywhere from This year's a little bit more than normal. Usually they come in between 2 and 3 million, maybe 3.5. And for the last 2 to 3 years, we started off with about $1.2 million in surplus. So we're down to 800 this year, where we've seen an average of 1 to 200, and that's because we keep adding staff every year, and as we add staff, that reduces our operating surplus for the following year, because you've got that cumulative effect where you add them this year and you're going to add them next year plus 3%. And then the following year, you know, you get to keep increasing it by 3%, and you're keeping those people. So as we add staff, it starts cutting into our operating and reduces it each year. But generally, yes, everybody comes in with anywhere from $2 to $3.5 million worth of request, and we narrow it down to, you know, we try to take, utilize whatever we have in surplus for the operating, and then if there's some items that we just definitely feel like we need to have, but we don't have it in the surplus, we take it out of the fund reserve.
So
As far as
that was
capital.
my next question. How do you increase the budget for this?
Taken out of the fund balance, all of our reserves.
In previous years, how does that work? Is there like a percentage over a course of time, like for an administration? Do you have a 4% increase, or I guess everything has an increase every year?
Yes, you know, most of our increases are wage increases and benefits, and that's an average of a 3%, you know, per department for all of their wage and benefit information. Then you know, you just have some moderate increases in operating, and then you start with capital, because every year we've got, you know, vehicles that are worn out and tractors that need to be replaced and mowers that need to be replaced or whatever. So it's just the way, you know, department heads come together with a list, and they don't always get everything they want, you know, but we try to, you know, the last couple of years we've tried to give every department something, you know, if the board felt like it was necessary. You know, and of course with fire and police, you know, they get pretty much top priority, a lot of things.
And fortunately, the last few years, we've been blessed to have a surplus every year on our revenues over expenditures, partially due to the good management skills of the department heads and making sure that we do stay within budget on our expenses. But on the other hand, you know, costs are always going up every year, just inflation. I mean, it's just the way things are. But when it comes to dipping into the reserves, the fund balance, you know, you can do that for your one-time cost type stuff. But if you start doing that to fund personnel, you're going to go in a hole quick. And that's what quite frankly, that's what happened in the 2000 decade. You know, we started going into our fund balance.
Yeah, 2003, 2004 was really bad.
And, you know, well, even on up to probably 2008, 2009, you know, we were still doing that. And our fund balance kept going down, and then we were in a world of hurt.
So I went back 7 years in our audits and other things. I'm really trying to learn how this changes. So we had over $7 million or $11 million in budget amendments where we've added stuff. Is that over a course of time? Is that a high number, or is that an average number?
And a lot of that's mainly where we purchased the fire department.
Yeah, some of that, yes, some of that was in there.
That's right, you know, $4 or $5 million right there was a big chunk of it. And a lot of it is the city grows. You know, as the city grows, we're fortunate to add staff and equipment and more, you know, safety-related capital.
I mean, the more we grow, the more needs we have.
Right.
You know, especially if we want to continue to provide the same amount of service, you know, with our growing.
So we have 2 days to review this and kind of come up with our plan for our workshop. Is it possible that we have the department heads send us emails on, this is my number one priority and this is my least priority? Is that a normal request, or is that abnormal, or? I mean, that's what I prefer. It's hard for me to sit here and who's more important in the room? Is Garland's needs any different than Conrad's? I don't think so.
I think
You
what
know.
you're gonna find in that is you're still gonna go back to the same situation we have here, because every department thinks that their priorities are top, And when you have 20 departments and they try to prioritize their, request, are you going to give everybody that says, this is my top request, everything they wanted for number one?
Well, I disagree with what you're saying. I think it's going to, with all the changes that the city's going through, I've seen fire and police do it. I've actually seen the chief of police stand in front of the podium and say, hey, I'm going to give up this because fire needs it. And I've also seen the fire department do it. I've seen Public Works do it, because parks needed something. So what I'm asking is if the department heads, I mean, we're even talking about merging some departments. So most definitely you and David and AC, I mean, that one department, we're talking a couple $100,000 in reductions. If those two can go to the mayor or go to us, the mayor has to make the decision what goes on the budget, but it's our decision to say, yes, we can accept this and without raising taxes or without reducing benefits or without, there's so much at stake when just what Bruce was saying, the one-time fee is okay, we're going to take that hit, but if you start adding 10 firemen or 6 firemen and 5 police officers, you're talking every year you got $300,000 or $400,000 that's just going to keep reoccurring. And I've heard Vice Mayor Brown, that's one of your biggest questions over the past is it doesn't stop just with this. It happens next year and next year and next year. Do we have housing for it? Do we have, so I'm learning this. So I think my request is fair. And I think we just got to get the department heads to go one more step. Maybe Adam will sit down with Garland. They're not in the same department, but they may have some of the same needs, and we can make that, if you need a tapper, I heard you were asking for a tapper, it's $12,000. Well, I've seen these guys rent tappers, so I mean, there's so much we can intertwine. Are you guys feeling what I'm saying?
I'll go ahead and speak. Yeah, Garland and I really don't cross paths, and that's not necessarily to say that we don't have dealings together, because I think I kind of deal with everybody in the city, but there's no, every department for the most part, doesn't have a whole lot of commonality with the different department. The tapping stuff, Garland's not going to tap anything, period, because that's not what Garland does. Garland, that's the water department. My planning and engineering tech, Garland doesn't need a planning and engineering tech. Mike doesn't need a planning and engineering tech. They don't do planning or engineering. So I think when you start trying to say, well, what can we share between departments? Most of the stuff that can be shared is shared. I mean, stormwater has the only real excavator in the city. If Garland needs something dug that he can't dig, we come dig it for him.
So you do intertwine.
We swap
Help each other out.
So you do. You do exactly what I'm saying.
Stormwater department, but as far as this budget, there's none of that big equipment type stuff to be swapped. I mean, I'm not going to be able to take in the engineering department to a Garland's laborers and do stuff with them. It's the same for Mike's guys. Mike's guys are strictly water. They have to be certified to do water. We pay them extra to be certified in water. We really can't take Mike's guys, he can flag for Garland, and I'm sure he's done it in the past, and Garland flags for Mike, I'm sure in the past, and stormwater, but once you kind of start looking at what's being asked for, their individual needs, not group.
Oh, yeah, I see it. But I disagree. I think someone driving your street sweeper, I've heard several times, if the guy's out or if he's on another task, there's no problem with grabbing someone from the street department and putting them in the street sweeper. To me, that would be intertwined.
And I definitely agree with that, but I would also just argue the general point is, reflected in the budget. Generally, our public works, engineering, I think stormwater's at a pretty good point right now. They're all generally just kind of understaffed, so there's not really a point in time that I think Garland really just got a free guy hanging around.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I see it, but I also see $2.5 million over what we have. So we have to trim somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
And where can we trim? It makes most sense. Life safety, in talking to other municipalities, the biggest argument, fire and police get everything they ask for. Well, we have to fine tune that too. I'm not for a special ops trailer, but if the chief's saying we need it, he may not get it, because is a special ops trailer as important as a ballistic vest? To me, a special ops trailer right now, we have, with the chief's background, we have assistance coming into our city, with I guess a good response time and everything. The ballistic vest, whether it's a backhoe need or a new truck or a fire, I mean, it just goes on, and we're hundreds of thousands of dollars. So when I question something, it's not to offend anybody, it's to learn. If the department heads are requesting it, I think the department heads, what I'm requesting for you to send me an email with the permission from the city manager or the city administrator is, you tell me what's the most important on your list and put it in line. And then I'm going to take the list and I'm going to look at it, because I'm not a professional in engineering. I don't know if the program you need is a number 1 or a 10 being the lowest, 1 being the highest. So I have to only go on your expertise. This budget doesn't show us that. This budget shows us, with Phyllis's work, I mean, it's about as cut and dry as you can get, and her answers are the same way, because that's the facts. The facts are, this is what it costs, and this is what we're asking for. It's not a lot of help for us to decide how do we make it happen.
That was planning retreat though, where they presented.
We did. We talked about it.
Where they presented what they prioritize their needs are, and they say, I wanted this. This would be, I believe it's David McGowan specific. His was saying, the one that I remember saying, this is what I need. This is what I really want though, but this is my needs. And they went through and did that with the planning retreat. So they've done that. Now it's up to the board to make these decisions and either approve or reject the budget whenever it's put together. But it's to prioritize I think the assignment that's being given out is for each individual to set what they see as the priorities and then send that over, and so that I can review that.
So I made some notes from the planning retreat. I'm glad you brought that up. And I did try to discuss it at the planning retreat, and I was told that it will be discussed at this meeting. So.
Not the individual as far as specific prioritized needs.
So are you telling me it's not a good idea to have the department heads send me an email of their?
I didn't say that. I said they've already gone through that is what I've said.
Would that be okay with you, Bruce?
I mean, I really don't see an issue with it, but it needs to go to all the board members.
Oh, I agree.
You, so,
Yeah, 100%.
I don't see an issue with each department head, compiling their, I think one thing we need to do, and this is just my opinion, all of these items that we're looking to possibly fund out of this current fiscal year, 18-19, if we pull those out of this list, that would help clear up what exactly we're looking at for next year.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't mean all of it's going to get funded. We don't know yet, because it's coming before you guys next week. But if we pull all of those items out, if we pull the items that are already in the budget for next year, because really those are being counted twice, like the Channel 3 stuff. That's listed here, but it's already in the budget, so it's counted twice.
$100,000 increments.
Well, 200,000 each. It's 200 here and it's 200 in the budget already.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of a double dip. I think that would kind of help clear up some of these numbers as far as the overall amount.
While everybody's been talking, I did sort of that, I haven't taken them out, but if you'll notice on the screen there, I've got 18-19, and then I've got some commas, Channel 3. So all of the 18-19 items and the $200,000 from the Channel 3, and even the $72,000 for the life safety officer, because that's already built into our budget, equals that 939,000. So as you subtract the 939 from the 4,048,
4,048,000.
You're gonna make that
3 million.
4,000, aren't you?
it's 3 million. So you got 3 million, and minus, we know we got 800,000, so we're working with about 2.2 million.
Right.
Over what we have.
Right. So
Correct.
we've got to somehow or another, and another thing that might be helpful if we strip out the operating.
Separate it from the capital, right?
Either I can make another column here and put like a column for the capital and a column
Do a
for the.
separate page.
Yeah,
That would be wonderful. That will show us what's,
exactly.
yeah,
What
the
you-
longevity of it.
Yeah, I was getting to that. I was going to suggest that.
So
And again, it's just a lot to comprehend, you know, and then you're looking at all these numbers and you're looking at the needs. And I agree with each department head that's saying they need this. I really believe they feel they need it, or they can justify it, or they can put facts finding why they need it. But it's hard as a new board member. I don't know about Alderman No
Hey, man, we've sat here and saved $1 million in the last,
tonight, you know.
yeah, so I'm good.
So it just, and we got $2.5 million to go. And then we have, from what you guys are saying, Thursday, we're going to discuss this at our workshop, and then next week we vote on it. Is that?
next Thursday
Next
we
Thursday.
discuss it, and then the following Tuesday we.
Gotcha.
will vote.
First reading.
So what I would propose is I'll get with Phyllis tomorrow. We'll work on the spreadsheet and try to get it narrowed down, try to get a little more organized. And then I don't have a problem, you know, having the department heads, you know, kind of prioritize each area as far as what they feel is most important. And then once we get that in that order, we could send the spreadsheet back to you
That would be, it would really help me.
for discussion purposes.
So before we move on to, since we've got that settled, before we move on to the seniors, I'm gonna have us take a 10-minute break. We've gone through, I know last night we went straight through marathon, so this way there's a little bit of break for everybody. So we'll come back in 10 minutes and start tackling the senior section. Okay, we're moving on with the budget meeting over to the senior capital fund. Phyllis?
Thank you, Mayor. In the senior fund, there has been a few requests. The first request being $50,000 for a full-time senior center employee, $30,000 for a senior center sign, $20,000 for to repair the parking lot senior center, and $3,000 to do some landscaping for the senior center. Now, keep in mind, the senior center doesn't have the funds to support this, so this money would come out of the general fund.
So this comes out of that same 800,000.
Pardon?
This comes out of that same 800,000.
Right.
Who requested the $30,000 for the sign?
I can't speak to that, but I do know, like Donna's sign is an electronic sign. That's probably about what we're gonna have tied up in her sign, I think. As far as the senior center sign, it's relatively new. That sign is probably 4 years old at the most. 'Cause when we put this electronic sign out front, it's kind of got the same theme as the sign out front. So that sign is relatively new.
Yeah, I don't know.
$30,000 sign, personally, I don't think an electronic sign is necessary there. for the
I agree.
location.
But I think that's what AC had put in his presentation at the planning trees, where Phyllis got that number from, is, I'm pretty sure he mentioned something about wanting a sign, and it would be the electronic, so that is where the number, I'm sure, is
Yeah, they
coming
talked
from.
about the same sign as the library, AC did.
I have a question about the full-time senior employee. Is that in addition to the full-time existing position that is the coordinator's position?
We've had the same question all for the last couple of weeks about that. That hasn't been clarified to us. I guess this would be, I'm not sure who even put this on there. I don't think it was AC. Was it you, Steve, no, requested?
I mean, I asked months and months ago because, the way things are down there with because let's face it, we've not had a coordinator for a long time, except for that little bit of time that Miss Foster was there, so there had to be plenty of money in there from her pay, plus, a full-time employee that works out front with the center makes it possible to, get things done as far as, because, if we keep doing part-time at 3 o'clock every day, boom, they're gone. There's no time for nothing to do. That's the only time that she's got totally 100% free to take care of, all the paperwork and computer stuff and GNRC, and Miss Donna probably knows all those duties as well as anybody. So, I mean, I'd love to see it. If it's possible, I would absolutely love to see it. I think it would make the senior center flow better because it's growing leaps and bounds. We're getting new applicants every day. I think Melissa told me they got 27 new applicants from here in Laverne, last month maybe, Donna? Is that correct? Yeah, because, it's really growing, so.
Kyle, I know we've talked about this once or twice with you and I when it comes to part-time and full-time. How many part-time employees can we get for that same amount?
Oh, you could at least, since you didn't have benefits, it'd be at least two.
2.5.
And then, yeah, 2.5. And then if you had, since you have multiple people feeling sick or something like that, instead of, them being out the whole day stuff, you'd be able to pull in your other part-time or something like that, schedule it, work it out. So, you should be able to get, if you wanted to extend the coverage, extend the hours, stuff like that. It's kind of like how the libraries run. I mean, there's a lot of part-time over there, and they stay open several hours. So basically, you get same amount of hours, multiple people to do the coverage, and then you don't have the benefits.
Okay.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
One thing that I guess we all need clarification on, we've kind of talked about this a little bit this week, is we currently have a part-time position open when Melissa took the full-time position. So we weren't sure if you were talking about taking that position and making it full-time, or whether this is a full-time plus keep that part-time position. So we needed clarification on that.
I think it was and we discussed this several different times in the center, is their need is having their director or coordinator, and then having the one full-time position is just speaking to them internally and seeing their needs, while we're there. The volunteers, the center's pretty much ran on volunteers. I mean, we have our part-time staff there that runs the day-to-day function, but if you take the volunteers out of the equation, there's no way the center could even operate. I mean, we have a flow of volunteers that they're pretty much scheduled. I mean, they're on a schedule and they go in. And how long can we do that?
Personally, I'd love to see a full-time person out front, and then a part-time, because the part-timers, let's face it, they don't make a lot of money. And then let the coordinator be in charge of the center, and let the full-time person out front be in charge of making a part-time person schedule to stagger it, as Kyle says, to offset the hours. Of course, it would have to be somebody really good, and no disrespect to Miss Donna, as you say, with volunteers. There's a lot of difference in helping with books as opposed to helping with older people. So they would need to be.
Go ahead, Miss Donna.
Can I clarify what Kyle said? Excuse me, I'm throwing this mint everywhere. The library currently has 6 full-time people.
Okay.
3 of us are admin, which we are salary, 3 are hourly. Then we have 11 part-time people. Our volunteers are only teen volunteers that come throughout the summer, or they also come through Tennessee Promise. But we do not staff the library with volunteers. And we have library clerks who are part-time, who are trained in what they do.
Yeah, but you stagger them.
Correct.
Right, and that.
We cover
you know.
57 hours of 3 full desks and the back with the 11 part-time and the 6 full-time
And
people.
there's always someone that's actually works for you that's there with the part-timers to direct.
Correct. We
Right.
have a full-time person there
Right.
at all times, usually 2.
And that's what
because-
I'm saying, if we had that full-time person and the part-time person, the full-time person would be there the morning till, 12 o'clock, and then if we can get some more hours out of the center, maybe not, then that part-time person would carry over and help as the day progresses, because it's getting really busy.
And I've seen the event coordinator, AC, I mean, these folks have taken away from their job duties to work in the senior center, and not just for special events.
The problem is that it's only open a few days a week for about 6 hours at a time. And we have other departments that have requested continually that are here servicing more than 40 hours, that have not been able to get the staff that they need in a position that's already an existing full-time structure.
Yeah,
And so with us having a full-time coordinator and 2 part-time positions, you're saying that you need a full-time in addition to the 2 part-time that are already
No,
available?
No, just-
No, just one full-time and a part-time, but to get back to your original statement, it's only open X amount of hours a week. I would love to see it come up a little bit.
yeah, we'd love to see it open 5 days a week.
I know 5 days is a stretch, but maybe longer during the week, because realistically, that one day, if we go back to a 5-day work week, that one day would be phenomenal for them to catch their breath, do all their paperwork, do the shopping, which I've learned a little bit about is a nightmare in itself.
And we've met with other senior centers, like you guys have taught us to compare things to other cities. Smyrna and Murfreesboro, if you compare the ratio, the investment that Smyrna invests and the investment that Murfreesboro is investing, it's 35 to 40% more.
Smyrna's isn't city-run, though.
Well, I know it's not city-run, but they contribute, so
Well, but they don't operate it, so, I mean.
They don't operate it, but.
That 501c3 makes those determinations, and they do all the fundraising.
Yes, and ours was a 501c3 until the city made a promise many years ago. And I was a younger guy, and I helped move the senior citizens over. We took stuff out of their little house over here next to City Hall. We loaded up in their trucks. And some of the seniors that remember that move remember the promise that the city made them. And it was 15 years ago when the city told them, we were going to take care of them. And I think we've done a great job. I think we can do a lot better, because the needs, and I've learned tonight, there is a difference between wants and needs. And if you go to the senior center and you see their needs, no matter what party you're with or what way you vote, you're going to agree their needs are at such a high level. There's people, we went through these nonprofits the other day, and they're feeding all these folks in Laverne. If the Senior Citizen Center is not operating, there's seniors in our city that will not eat. They will not eat.
Why?
Because they have no food. I've been to their homes.
So we get with the organizations to take food to them.
Okay. We're doing that.
But you just said they won't eat.
I'm saying, I've sat here for 3 or 4 years and watched Alderman Brown say the same thing, or Vice Mayor Brown, excuse me. What's the need? Why do they need a new coordinator, or why do they need another full-time person? And we're explaining to you why. It's time. It is time to make the move. No, do they need a $30,000 sign? No way. I don't think that's even open for discussion. But do they need a body in there full-time to extend the services?
Okay, how many meals per day is being provided by the city to the senior citizens?
How many meals?
How many meals?
I don't know. Can you answer that, Bruce?
I cannot.
Actually,
I think
right,
it's just one, isn't
Donna
it?
can
On
probably
Wednesday.
answer it better than I
How,
can.
how many, Jason?
That just said that. I said, I believe it's just
by this,
lunch on Wednesday.
by the city, it's normally one meal a week. And with the help of several people, we have been able to get lots of donations to keep money out of the city's budget so that we can do things with them. We do other meals, but they're not really big. We do,
Lunches. People,
what's it called, Bruce?
several people in the community will go by there and adopt them for the day, whether it be, hey, how many do you have today? And they say, I have 25 people. Well, we have 25 seniors in here. Well, individuals in the community, and I'm one of them, say, okay, I'm sending Subway down for 25 people, or I'm going to have pizza delivered for 30 people. And it's not just one person. There's a group of people in our community that have taken it upon themselves to make sure that these seniors have food. It's our job as a governing body is to make sure that we have the proper people that are in there. I mean, the girls that are in there, what they do in 20-something hours a week is amazing. This is the same board that we over the last several years have gave $25,000 to different agencies for no return whatsoever. And it's supported with documentation and department heads' comments. So with that said, if you take $75,000 over the last 3 years that's been given to nonprofits with no return to the city, and you have senior citizens that are at our senior board, that are at our senior center, that need assistance, and we have the capabilities of providing it, we just have chosen not to, I think we should be ashamed of ourselves.
Okay, but you're saying with no return, but that fictitious organization that got that money, that brought back in $200,000 for the census, for the early census that I requested, and we got another $200,000 that's going to continue to come in. Mm-hmm. That's ours. It's there. So how are you seeing no return on $200,000 for someone we gave $25,000 to? Those are damn good numbers, and I don't understand how you don't get that correlation.
Bruce, will you please make a note that Alderman Jones is using profanity at the board towards me?
This is a workshop.
Will you please just make,
There's no minutes.
you still shouldn't use profanity towards me.
We're recorded.
You still shouldn't use profanity towards me.
It's not towards you.
You were speaking to me, sir.
I'm speaking to the board. I'm speaking to
Okay,
the board.
let's get to the question, please.
So in my opinion, I don't know where the senior center signed it. If I said that, I apologize. I don't think that don't even need to be on there, so I'll be like David McGowan over there and say, take that off.
Done. Gone.
The $20,000 for repairing the parking lot is, I think AC or David, somebody went there and painted stripes or something, and
I think the parks guys came in there and
the parking lot on a scale from 1 to 10, with 10 being the best, I'm gonna say is probably a 7.5.
It's just showing its age.
It's showing its age. I don't think, now, the landscaping, I think we could do that a lot less.
Yeah, I think that could be minimal, and most of that would be, you know, the humps out front by the road.
Yes,
They need to be
absolutely.
taken out, should have been taken out, and that's just getting a tractor or a Bobcat down there and leveling it, getting it out, and replanting something a little more appealing, so you're probably,
So, with,
$1,000 at the most.
with the parking lot, weren't there some discussions about another building, a dog park or something that's going out there? Is that gonna,
No, what they were talking about was if that grant ever comes through for the, building, the building
The
will
storm
actually
shelter.
go in the parking lot. If that's the way it's laid out originally, Bruce, I think, is the way that's supposed to.
I don't know that that's been totally decided. It could go
Okay.
back further on that property where the ball fields used to be. But that's not totally been determined, I don't believe, at this point.
Okay.
We don't have any definitive plans on where that building would go if we get the grant.
But it'll be in proximity there somewhere.
It'll be on that property, yeah.
yeah, the reason I brought that up is, by no means not saying that it doesn't need it, if it needs it, but I would hate to see, a $20,000 repair go in, then you got a bulldozer that comes in and.
Absolutely.
tears
I
it
don't
down.
disagree with that at all.
I think part of that was discussed even with Ann, with the fact that the farmer's market is moving to that location as well.
I think white stripes out there like they did is for right now, who knows, maybe a year or two or something, or if that building comes. But getting back to the top line, everybody in this room, with the exception of Mike Walker, guys, we're gonna need one of these days. I hope that somebody will step up and help with us. I hope they do. I hope they don't just, forget about you. That's about all I got to say. I mean, I'll be 61. Mike's older than I am, and one of these days, Mike's gonna need, I mean, it's a realization, it's coming. And if we can get on it now and help more older people that have paid their dues, we have retired veterans down there, some with disabilities. A lot of them have dementia, a couple of them are blind. You know, I guess when I go home at night, I like to lay my head down and sleep, knowing that sometimes it's not about what you get, but what you give. So I guess I got a soft spot for them. I know, not to ramble on, but, you know, I hope that one of these days my kids will fight for me, so.
Well, just the same as we've said before with the last one we went through, you want to email those suggestions over, and remember that that encompasses the total 800,000 that's available. So when you're working on the prior section we've gone through, include this with it.
I would like to remind the mayor that was a campaign promise
Thank you, I appreciate that.
that was made by.
Phyllis, moving on to roads.
I want to go back and make sure I understand. Do we want to take that parking lot repair out?
As far as I'm concerned, I think you should, but now, you know, I'm an alderman, I don't know who's got the,
What was that question?
I think you can just
Should we
leave it
take the,
for now.
Parking lot repair
Just
out
something
of
we
the
need to
senior
talk,
center?
I would talk to AC about it, because it's the
Okay.
same thing with the other
Okay.
stuff.
Yeah,
That was what he had requested in here, because he did that presentation to planning retreats, where it come from with the sign also.
All right, sounds good. Moving on to capital projects roads. Adam has put together a list of projects that he'd like to see us start working on. South Walton Road section widening, 110,000. South Walton Road residential preliminary, 175,000. Charter Place and Center Point signal, 155,000. Ingram and Mason intersection, 155,000. And the Sanford and Industrial intersection, 250,000. It's a total of 845,000 out of capital projects roads. Let me see if we. And we do not have funds available. Let me see if we have road impact fee money. We do have road impact money fee to cover that,
It would cover it 100%?
100%.
There were significant impact fees generated by Mason Road Development, which has
Oh, it's done, guys.
been good on a couple of
Glad
fronts.
to hear about that.
Okay.
Does it cover, you said the whole 845,000?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Moving on to parks.
Capital projects parks. Adam has put together this list also for $85,000 for the parks master plan update, $75,000 for the Greenway Trail lighting, $300,000 for a bark park, $25,000 for senior baseball field renovation, $50,000 for the walking trail renovation, and $200,000 for veterans playground renovation.
Now, the Bark Park, I thought, was discussed, there was gonna be some grants looked into for that.
There is a grant available. I don't think we're actually gonna make it in time, just because it was a matching grant, and we really had to have something on paper to get to them. We couldn't request it, but our ability to compete would be pretty severely hindered, just because it's, for lack of better terminology, spur of the moment on our part, or at least gives the impression that it was spur of the moment. The cost shown at $300,000 is mostly property acquisition, because we just don't have any. So really, trying to shoehorn it in, we could probably look at a couple places, but really you get into issues with parking and that type of thing. So unless we've got 3 clear flattish acres somewhere that I don't know about other than behind the senior center, that's kind of what the cost mostly includes. It did, most of the work was based on city staff doing quite a bit of it. Once again, the capital plan for a lot of this stuff, we did kind of lean on David's guys a lot, and but for a bark park, it's mostly fencing, bathrooms, benches, trash cans. Not a whole lot goes into them.
For the Bark Park,
Yes, sir.
I'm assuming you mean a
Dog.
dog
I think dog park, yeah.
park.
Yes, sir.
So I got a couple of people, well, you all know them, Kathy Tyson and Deborah Bothrop. We're supposed to be meeting with Monteque here tomorrow, maybe Phyllis.
I mean,
They got a bunch of stuff that they researched and found out about some grants that are going to be available in 2020, and they're gonna show them to Monteque and get a jump on it. But one thing I wanted to ask about that, I talked with AC, and he said that the city owned that land along Stones River Road from about where the senior center's parking lot stops there, pretty much all the way to the circle. I didn't know how wide that was, and one of the things that we had just talked about was a chain link fence down that side of the sidewalk away from traffic, over, I don't know how far over it goes, and then back up and then square that off, and then put a fence right down the middle with signs that says big dog, middle dog. I don't know much about bark parks.
I don't know exactly the extent. We do own some frontage there along Stones River, but my impression was with the shelter that we were seeking for a grant, that frontage was going to be taken up by that shelter and the parking lot attendant to it, because if you build a large storm shelter, you hope you have the parking for all the people that come to it.
He's talking
It's
about a
past
different
that.
parcel. It's past that. It's kind of a
Across the
moon-shaped
road.
property
Okay.
that fronts Stones River. It's about 3 acres from what I remember.
Yeah, and it's not really deep. It's from the road
Right.
almost to the, well, you see where the backyards are.
Yeah, it's like 125 feet wide, and,
Maybe.
Is it that wide?
I mean, I'm talking the widest point right there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Kind of like a half moon.
right, half
I
moon
mean,
shape.
me and AC talked about it. I don't know that much about the demographics and everything, but, city already owns that land. The cost of a big chain link fence around through there, a couple signs, Now, one of the things,
It's got the sidewalk that runs, it's in between, it's kind of across from the school, the middle school, and it's got the sidewalk that runs in between that and the
I
road.
spoke with, well, actually, the Lankers today. I mean, she's pretty good about animals. And she said that she thought that dog parks, for some reason, had to have shade. I don't,
It is preferable. Most people tend to spend about an hour in the dog park. If it's summer in Middle Tennessee and the sun's beating down on you, I kind of like a shade tree in the dog park when I take mine.
You know more about it than I
Most
do.
of that is heavily wooded, so you'd have to clear a lot of it out.
Yeah, we can definitely look into it. As I said, all the capital was done on, worst case scenario. So if we don't have to buy property, I tend to figure property.
I don't know what else, you'd use it for. I mean, if it's ours, I don't know what you could put down through there.
I tend to figure property that is not on Murfreesboro Road or Waldron Road at about $75,000 an acre, which isn't actually that bad of a price. It seems like a lot, but that tends to be kind of market rate around here at the moment. So, could we do it for $80,000 if it fits on that? Probably, but once again, everything I present to you is always worst case scenario, at least to my mind. Doesn't mean it's always going to cover everything, but I try to be as upfront about it as I can.
Well, maybe there'll be a tree or two there, Bruce, you ain't got to clear out.
Right,
We need-
yeah, we want to leave the larger trees for shade, yeah.
Phyllis, is just the same with the parks projects. That comes out of the 800,000. Is that right?
No.
No, it comes out of the park impact fees?
We have a capital projects parks fund. Right now, there's about $400,000 in it.
Okay.
With that fund, does that also bleed into the senior citizen? Do they receive any of that money? Because Parks and Rec are so involved, I don't know, is their budget intertwined in any way? No.
So we couldn't do, all of these projects, but we could do up to around 400,000.
Okay.
And Bruce, on the playground, I can't remember the playground ever been renovated since it was put in 20-something years ago.
We've done some repairs a time or two, but I don't think it's ever been fully renovated.
Right.
I was up there
That's
for
the original playground equipment.
Yeah, I was up there for the Easter egg hunt, and I never really paid any attention to it because I don't go over there, but I made a special point. I didn't realize how bad that rubber asphalt stuff is torn up. I don't know what part of that is a liability on the city and what's not. Play at your own risk. But I do know that rubber stuff, or whatever that's made out of, it is bad. So, I mean, that's my 2 cents worth on that.
About $75,000 of the $200,000 proposed for that renovation is just that rubber asphalt mulch.
I had spoke with David briefly, and he was saying that we are, we could replace that with wood chips. Is that correct?
There's several options there. You can replace it with wood chips, which is called kind of like a play soft, but then what you run into there is a constant depth. You've got to keep it at a constant depth. And with kids running back and forth, I don't know how possible that's going to be in the long run, really.
It's also got to be certified for the jump
Well, yeah, and
factor and
anything,
everything else.
and we learned that with the Lake Forest,
Yeah.
So anytime we do any renovations on that, we're gonna have to get somebody certified to come in and do a test for it to actually see. It's kind of like an impact test of the highest point where you fall, how hard it's gonna impact a child's head. And
Is that our only 2 options, the rubber or chips, or others?
Concrete.
That's about,
Can't do concrete anymore.
that's about the only 2 options. Of course, your wood chips are gonna be a whole lot cheaper. How feasible that is in the long run,
It's a cost now versus cost later
Yeah.
kind of equation. The rubber we've got out there's, and you guys can tell me when the park was built.
Now, it's my understanding that the Veterans Park Playground renovation project is not just for that rubber. It's for all new.
And that was, I explained that,
All new-
$75,000 is about what the rubber costs. The other would be playground equipment. So 125,000 worth of playground.
Okay. You said that, and I heard you, but I guess I wasn't paying attention.
And on the Greenway lighting trail, Chief Walker, didn't you have a concern with lighting the Greenway at night?
I've got concerns about the Greenway, period.
I mean, if we light it, we're saying it's open at night,
Yeah.
and we have to police it.
It's an invitation.
And if we don't light it, we still have to police it because that's where all the activity's happening. So it's kind of a,
We police it, we can't drive it.
Well, one thing we discussed is making sure that gate gets closed every night, you know, so that people don't keep going in there and do what they do.
so would it make sense to put up the gate and then not put any lighting?
Yeah,
There's
the
already
gate,
a
the gate's up. It just
Oh,
needs-
there's a gate. Yeah, that's right. I
What they had
remember.
what was discussed is they need to just make sure that gate's closed at night, and then we'll continue to monitor it, because yes, I do think lighting the Greenway is gonna be a bad idea, because that's kind of what, at first, people were doing that in different cities, and then they strayed away from it, because you're inviting people to come out
At night.
At night and feel safe, and
they
if you don't
think
have
it's
the
safe.
police patrolling it, then
Right.
they're really not that safe.
And the police, you don't have anything that can even get to the Greenway, do you?
No.
They have to actually park their car, get out and walk it.
Right.
Yeah, that's probably not a good idea.
22.
Got bicycles.
We've
What
got,
about your golf cart?
but we've only got one now, that's trained, and that's Bill Timpson, because Crowder's out. Be operated on, Seneca's gone to CID, so
What about your golf cart you got?
don't have a golf
I
cart
thought you had a big fancy golf cart.
No, that's the,
Talking about the Razor.
down there.
Talking about
That's
the Razor.
not for anything that needs to be sold.
now Ted Boyd drove that thing all over Laverne.
Okay. Any more questions on the
Rode
parks?
horses too, but you know.
Okay, guys, any more questions on the parks, Captain?
I drove it all over Laverne.
Okay,
Moving on to stormwater.
stormwater, please.
The stormwater request are 25,000 for the Eastwood subdivision survey, 40,000 for Woodsong, 20,000 for stream monitoring, $120,000 for the drainage master plan, a stormwater crew building, 350,000 for a total of 555,000. And the stormwater fund does have funds available to cover any of these. What's the Woodsong? What was the Woodsong? I just put down Woodsong.
So the 350,000 for the building, what would that be?
As described, I've contacted a couple of, well, actually I contacted three prefabricated metal buildings. That would be basically for the pad, the building, and, you know, the basic plumbing and stuff going inside of it. It would be about I think we planned it out at about a 35 by 60 building, give or take. That would give us enough room to get some of our machinery inside, that type of thing.
Back there behind where you're at.
No, we can't go back behind where we're at, and that's the reason we're asking for this is our lease is with Mr. Pirtle. He feels that it expires, January 1st, 2020. My reading of the lease is that it expires August of 2020, which, you know, 8 months doesn't really make a huge difference when we're talking about the time scale we're working on. But basically everything, what we call the porch on the back part, the actual double wide trailer that the crew uses, all of our outbuildings, all of our storage is all part of that lease. And he's not going to lease it to us again. He's already come before planning for a couple things, and he's not going to stop. So I have to have somewhere to put my crew, and I can't put 6 people inside the codes building because we don't have any offices left to divide. We're tight.
Plus you lose the parking in the back, so
Yeah,
that's
we
where the
don't- we won't
stormwater
have
guys have
anywhere
been
to actually
parking.
park our trucks.
Yeah. There's just not enough room for,
So would this building be compatible to what David was presenting for his maintenance building?
It was
$100,000.
what was presented then was basically a combination building.
Okay.
Was that it would be shared with stormwater and maintenance temporarily. The hope was that eventually, if we did get another public works building or whatever come along in that direction, stormwater would move toward that public works building. Maintenance would have somewhere to expand and have dry storage was really kind of the hope there.
Would this building that you're proposing, would it fit on Parks and Rec's lot where the maintenance building that was scratched?
It would.
So Is that where the plan is to put this building?
That's an option. I mean, it's really at the board's discretion as to where it would go.
So your estimate for $350,000, you don't have a location?
The location was planned to be at Parks, was the original, but if for whatever reason there was a different parcel or something available, it could be moved because it's literally just a building and pad.
So we do have room at Parks and Rec to put the building that meets your needs.
Yes, but just my department needs.
Thank you.
Any other
Moving
questions on stormwater?
Move on to water sewer.
And you said we have all that in the funds?
Yes,
Now, those funds, is that from stormwater fees?
yes,
From the industrial and things like that?
residential.
And what is our balance in that?
I think we're,
3.2, somewhere around there.
let's say, a bit more than that. We're right at 4.5 million.
4.5 million? Wow. So you don't spend any money, right?
Our spending kind of comes in peaks and
Spurts.
valleys. I mean, if you look at kind of what's planned out, whenever we go to, if Old Nashville ever comes about, we'll probably spend $2 million.
You have to have that
on
money.
Pond.
Right.
So it's kind of like anything, you know, if you go to buy a car or a house, you save up for a while, then
Yeah.
then all your money's gone and you're back to saving again.
Okay. And those fees are annual, right? Are they paid annually?
They're paid, the
Monthly.
residential.
Oh, monthly.
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 Okay.
They're billed on the utility bill, for the water and sewer.
Thank you.
The water sewer fund, their request for 1920 or 350,000 for the Cheney Wood design, $3.5 million for the Cheney Wood interceptor construction, and that money will come out of the bond money. And I'll go over some bond information in just a minute. Middle, Upper, and Waldron interceptor design, 1.5 million. Update the sewer master plan, 28,000. 24-inch water line construction, be 4.5, and that would have to be bonded out. Possibly, I mean, we may could take that out of reserves. Hydraulic model and DMA plan, 120,000. Water master plan update, 40,000. 7,000 for Q's power CPR lift. 15,000 for the meter test bench and structure. 60,000 for a customer service clerk. 60,000 for a water billing technician. And 63,000 for filter number 5 rehabilitation, 6,750 for autoclave, and $50,000 for the new turbidimeters for all filters. Turbidimeter? Turbidimeters for the filters in the poly unit. So that's a total of $10,313,000 just for the water sewer fund, minus the $3.5 million for the Cheney Wood, because that is included in our bond money. So that will leave you about roughly over $6.5 million of projects slash operating.
So that's the meter reading software that you
Yes.
wanted to add?
Yes, and we will need to, as soon as we get some pricing together for the new meter reading software, we're going to be updating this list. We're in the process of getting that information together. The water sewer fund is a pretty healthy fund, so we're not so concerned about the funding of that at this point. We will come back to the board. Possibly we'll update this before the budget workshop.
What's the current, as far as budget, the revenue, the surplus with water sewer?
Water sewer fund, we have right around $20 million.
Okay.
That money can only be used for water.
Correct. Correct.
How much is left in the bond money?
There is $3.9 million left in the bond money, and I have the bond sheets here. And we have 3 projects. Let me just pass these and I'll pass them around. We have 3 projects that we are looking at to utilize the rest of that bond money. They are the Upper Cheney Woods, the extending the 12-inch water line to the end of industrial, and extending the sewer line to the end of industrial. And just from, our experiences in the past, yes, we've got, $7.5 million worth of requests here, but I've never seen us do all those in one year. We generally don't do but a couple million, at most $3 to $1 million in projects.
It's just like the
kinda hard.
24, we got to get the easement worked out and everything else. So trying to get that bid out and the construction done and everything in a year, or the budget year, it's not going to happen. So it'll kind of
It'll
merge
roll
on into
over.
the next year's budget. Now, it's a project that needs to be done and has to be done, and we're going to
Right.
continue to work on it. It's just like what Phyllis is saying, though. It's just that whole 4.5 million, that's not
That's
going
not
to be.
gonna happen in one
So
year.
mostly the engineering and that research goes probably this physical year, next year
Right.
would be, okay.
And depending on how long some stuff takes, because if you run into an easement or a stream or something that you've got to get permitting for, then you're at the mercy of that department or state department, whatever, the Corps to.
TDAC, everyone
To
else.
get whatever permitting you need, in place, so.
The Corps takes the longest out of all of
Right.
those.
When that happens.
Well, it does.
The Corps of
Corps.
Engineers.
And see that with this, you may know, you may not, but Stones River Road basically is just, it's on Corps property, so it's in an easement. So, if you get on one side of the road, you're out of the Corps property, but the other, you're in Corps property. So we gotta get all that worked out and.
Are they hard to work with?
It took 6 years to get the
it
guardrail
takes-
up.
Yeah, it takes a little while.
They're super excited about it, but they're not gonna move fast.
They're not in a hurry, no doubt.
Now, are you still confident that we're gonna be able to go in there as they're putting in that pipeline of the water
We-
and do the greenway?
That'll be
It's
kinda,
separate.
it's parallel,
But with their easement, it's kinda gives us
well, it's a
permission.
different easement.
Oh,
There's where the actual water line's going will be in one of the running lanes of existing Stones River Road, which is why the estimate's so high, because we have to basically repave Stones River Road from front to back, really. We're working with them to get an easement to redo the old road bed, and that was put out in the parks plan to redo that. They're really excited about it. I've talked with I think they call him a ranger, but he's their natural resources manager. They want to do it, but no matter how much they want to do things, they're slow. So-
CWRA was out there last
Exactly.
week.
But going back to the Corps, we had started to do the water line because they told us to. They told us that they wasn't gonna let us do the Greenway or the 24 until we did it both at the same time, because they didn't want all that construction going on and then construction again for several years. So when they figured out we was gonna do it finally at the same time, they said, okay, we want it in this old road bed. Well, then after they started talking to different people, they're like, we don't want you to put the water line in our old road bed because you're gonna kill the trees and do this and do that. We'll let you do the Greenway, but it's gonna be two separate processes. We want you to have the water line out in the roadway. So that's where we're at. And plus, since we've got, we're the roundabout and we've done connected near Shriveman up, you do have a detour, so that's gonna be better. It's still gonna be a pain, but it'll be better than it was. Then on top of that, was it April, maybe February or March, you met with the Corps and also a representative because of the Trail of Tears went through that area, so then
That's what happened with the guardrail.
that's delayed it some even because they have to come out and make sure they're okay with what you're doing that's going to disturb the land. So it's been multi-tier, very long drawn out process.
Chief, when they do something like that to Stones River Road with the detour and everything, how important is that to emergency response to Lake Forest?
We just have to go around. We've had wrecks out there before and had a lot of complaints with folks when we had to shut it down totally, when we had some serious crashes.
So you just pre-plan for long-term?
Oh, you just reroute around there at the roundabout, reroute around, go up David's Way and back in. The only problem we're gonna have with the residents that are there.
Yeah, that live there.
How do we get them in and out? That will be the biggest issue we'll have as far as response for us is concerned. We'll go around.
Yeah. As you get closer to the roundabout, I know you've got even one school bus that's right there. That's where they park it and that's where they operate it from. So.
Phyllis, on this, will this be our last meeting with the budgets?
So, we can have minor discussions at the workshop Thursday night,
With,
week from Thursday night.
is there, on the, as we approve to negotiate for land purchases, I didn't see any of that in the budgets.
Yeah, I wasn't asked to put that in anything pertaining to that in this budget.
So is it comfortable to say that it's not gonna be in this year's revenue?
Wouldn't be in the revenue at all because revenue's money that we're making.
Well,
And
this
so
year's expenditures
for
this fiscal year.
it could, it would just, we'd have to come up with the funding. It's the same as with any budget amendment. I mean, if you have someone T-bone a fire engine and totals out the fire engine, well, the insurance doesn't pay the whole thing. Well, we have to do a budget amendment to come up with that shortfall. Same thing as with police cars or other issues.
No, I understand budget amendments, but I don't understand, as we're looking to negotiate properties, how it's not on the table for discussion.
Because whenever it comes before the board, that's whenever it would be up for discussion.
Do we have a number what we're looking at yet? Like Adam has put in some projections?
We're negotiating on it. Whenever all that's complete and we've got contracts, that comes before the board.
Okay.
Either Adam or Kyle, can y'all remind me, and Mike Dietz, you may be able to jump in on this, remind me about the Q's Power CPR lift and the meter testing bench. Just remind us what those are.
Yeah, I can answer both of those. The Q's Power Lift basically gives us the opportunity to camera larger diameter sewer lines.
Okay.
Currently, we can camera up to an 8-inch. This would give us capability to go up to at least a 12. So that would help out greatly. The meter testing bench and structure, currently, like we mentioned at the retreat, we're taking all residential meters. Now, we have a portable large meter tester for industrial and commercial, but all residential meters currently, we have to go to CUD to test, and they test that for us. This would allow us the capability to do it here in-house at our location.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions on water sewer? Okay, well, from here, pretty much everyone's got your homework assignments as far as to get your priority lists over to Phyllis and Bruce, and then we will have the first reading of the budget at the May workshop and May meeting.
And we have agreed that the staff is going to send that email on their list.
Phyllis and I will work on the list tomorrow, try to get all that cleaned up and get the department heads to rank their priorities. And we'll try to get that spreadsheet done out to everybody tomorrow, hopefully.
And if we can get a better explanation or the better plan on merging the two departments, I guess maintenance and parks, because that's a lot of revenue there that's kind of intertwined. That would help.
We'll see what we can do on that. That's very preliminary at this point, and it depends on what gets funded. So depending on what the board wants to do, it'll depend on how we have to finalize things.
Can you define what you want as far as priorities for the 18-19 or the 19-20?
1920,
The 19-20.
next year's budget.
That will be approved for this July 1, right?
So don't include anything that was indicated as 18-19.
Correct.
Correct.
We're going to remove that from the list because the budget is for next year. And then, they'll make that decision next week, or 2 weeks, actually, about the 18-19 stuff. And what, if anything doesn't get approved for that, then that'll have to be put back in the list for 19-20.
And that includes staff, is correct, is that correct, or
No.
just capital?
What we're looking at for 18-19 is capital.
Correct.
What we're looking at for 19-20 is capital and staffing.
But I think you had one staff member, if I remember correctly, that was,
Go through that.
that you
Taken out.
strike through or something that was already in there. So
Yeah,
that's
that's the
one,
life safety.
yeah,
That's the life
Yes,
safety
that's
officer.
That one's already
good on that one.
And then I've got,
Okay. Call this meeting adjourned.
I got the